Good morning YouTube, welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to be installing the rear BC Racing coilovers on the Volvo 240. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So for today's video we're just going to be doing the rear coilovers on the Volvo 240. I'm going to do this in two parts. I'm going to do the rears in one video and the fronts in another. The reason I'm going to be doing that is because the rears are just bolt-in, so I can pretty much do that in a day. The front ones I have to get welded at a shop, so I haven't found a shop to do it yet, but we'll figure that out. I'm going to show you the coilovers right now. We got rear springs, rear shocks, and then the front is like a coilover, just like what you would expect. So we're going to get into that right now, and then we're going to drive up to my dad's house because he has like a flat concrete pad that's much easier to jack the car up on, and that's what we're going to do. Let me show you what we got in the box. So what we got here is pretty much one of everything that comes for one side of the car. So this is the front coilover, this is for the front lower control arm, this is the rear spring, the rear collar for the rear spring, and then the rear shock. This is all that comes in the box, but then obviously two everything for the other side of the car. So today we're going to set aside the front two bits here, and we're just going to be focusing on the rear spring and this height adjustment collar, and then the rear shock. So we're going to be doing this on both sides. I'm only going to film one and then time lapse the other just because it's a repetitive process, but that's what we're doing today. We're going to put this in the car, we're going to drive up there and start installing these. So we've just made it back up to the other house. We're going to start by jacking up the car. Got all our parts there, we got our tools all laid out, and our toolbox here, jack, and we're ready to go. I'm going to jack up the car and we will get started taking off the wheel. So now that the wheel is off, the next step is going to be remove the shock. Right after that, we're going to remove the spring. And if you're doing this along with me, or if you're just curious, it's just one bolt at the top for the shock, one bolt at the bottom, and then for the spring, once that comes out, it'll be easier to remove. But there's just one bolt under, I don't know if you can see that. Right there, that's the one bolt we have to remove. And that bolt also is on the little collars, like under the new spring. So you see that, but yeah. That's what I'm gonna do next. Probably put it on time lapse as well, but it's just 1, 2, 3. Probably gonna need some WD-40 because I guarantee you these are original. I think they are original shocks and springs. So, but yeah, I'm gonna put you on time lapse. That's gonna be the next thing we do, and I'll check back to you when I'm done. I just got the old shock out, and yeah, this thing is most certainly on its last life. You push it in and it doesn't even come out, which, if you know, shocks are supposed to push back out when you push on them. Here's the new one. You can see I push. Well, this one is so much stiffer. I can barely even push it, but it pops. Oh, yeah, so I push it all the way in, and it pushes itself right back out. That's a healthy shock. That is not supposed to be that small. So the next step that we're gonna have to do is remove this rear spring. When you do this, the shock is the only thing holding this up right here, so put your jack underneath, hold it up to about the height that it was before. I just put it on there under the lower control arm, as you probably saw in the time lapse, but yeah, so the next step is going to be to remove that bottom bolt, and then we're actually going to let this jack down, pull out the spring, and then put in all the new stuff, and basically do back what we did before. And then one other thing I have to notice, or have to mention, is that with this car especially, I was so impressed. None of this stuff is rusted, it's just all very dirty. So removing that bolt right there and there, I had to use no WD-40, it's just a lot of torque. I had to disarm on my breaker bar, but no, it came off so nicely. But yeah, we're just gonna take off that spring next, put you on time lapse, and then everything just goes back in. So I just got that bottom bolt off. One tip, it's that little hole right down there. So the bolt is underneath, as I showed you before. One little tip though is that the piece that goes in here spins around when you're trying to undo this this bottom bolt right here. So what I did is I just grabbed these pliers. It's this piece right here, so it'll like, the bolt's underneath through that hole, and it like spins around when you try to do it. Just grab these with some pliers. I use these little blue like plumber's pliers. The only thing that really fit in there, my vice grips didn't really work. That probably would have been better, but if you have small vice grips, do that. But for this, clamp it with pliers, and then you can easily just use, I think it's a 17 millimeter, and then that was a 19. That was a 19, and then this is a 17. So those are the only 3 sockets you really need for this. You don't even need deep sockets. I just use shallows, and it worked just fine. But yeah, make sure you clamp out the pliers. And now I'm gonna lower this jack down and pull out the spring. So just taking out the old spring, and at this point we now have all of the old parts out, and we just have to put in the new BC Racing springs and shocks. I don't know what I'm gonna do first. I think I'm gonna try to do the spring first. We'll see how that works out. I watched some guy do it on YouTube. There are a couple other people who've done it out there, but yeah, I think I'm gonna seat the spring on there first. It goes down to there with a little height adjuster thing, and then we'll do the second shock from there, and we should be good. I might time lapse the other side. I might not even film it at all because it's gonna be the exact same process as this. But yeah, if you're following along, the only thing that I might mention is that this spring right here is kind of a pain in the ass to get out, so I just used like a 3-pound sledgehammer. I have no idea where I put it, but yeah, just knock it a couple times. It's not going to damage anything. Totally harm, no foul. So yeah, the next step is going to be to put in all the new stuff. I'll time lapse that, and we'll be pretty much done with the side. So now all of the new BC Racing parts are in, the shock is all good. The last things that I have to do now before it is all said and done is I have to torque this bottom bolt, I have to put on and torque that one, and then torque this one. I'm just gonna do it to factory specs. It didn't come with any instructions saying to do any numbers or anything like that. But yeah, I'm just gonna do factory torque specs, and sure, that's just fine. I don't know why it would be any different. But yeah, if you're doing this same exact project on the Volvo, one thing or two things I want to mention that are a little bit weird and specific. When you're putting on this spring, just jack up the lower control arm and it'll eventually seat itself on there, and make sure it doesn't catch on the rubber little O-ring on there because it'll tear that. And I don't know how vital that is to the car, but I'm sure it's just for vibrations, but just make sure it doesn't catch on that. So I guess that's 3 things then. This seats weirdly. When you see that you're jacking it up, putting the spring on, this like spring won't seat on here until it's all the way up, and it kind of like snaps into place. You'll see that. Just make sure your fingers aren't in there, and if it looks wonky, just keep jacking it and you'll see it's just fine. And then to install the shock, the last little tip that I have is put this at the lowest setting, whatever, twist it all the way to the, yeah, so I guess it'll be the lowest setting that it could possibly be, because it won't fit. You won't be able to get it in otherwise, unless you, well, I guess you could just compress the shock, but I found the most luck just putting it lower just to keep it in there. And then basically just once it's at its lowest, just unscrew it all the way down until the hole aligns. You probably saw me doing that in the time lapse, but do it until the holes align. Slide the bolt through. There's a little I don't know if I can film that. It's kind of like right there. There's a little spacer, or like I guess it's like a long washer more or less that goes, sleeve that goes over the bolt. And yeah, that's how you put all that in. I'm gonna torque all the bolts. I'll do that on time lapse, and that'll pretty much be it. everything is now done and completed. All the bolts are torqued up to spec. This bottom one gave me a little bit of trouble. If you're doing it, make sure you put it on. Make sure you torque it before you put on the spring, because I had to slip like a socket into the spring and it was kind of a pain in the ass. So make sure that you do that. But yeah, this is done. The next clip will be of me having finished the other side. I said I'm not going to time lapse or record it because it's just going to be a copy of what you just saw. But yeah, I'll update you with that. And that's the this video. The next clip you're going to see is the other side, and then I will close out the video. Looks pretty damn good. So I'm back. It's been a couple days. I forgot to finish out the video last time, but I wrapped up the rear BC coilovers on the other side. I didn't film any of it. I ended up doing it with one of my friends. But yeah, it's all set. It's good. I've had it for, I'd say it's been actually probably about a week now. It's so much different than it was before. Before, the car was an absolute boat. The shocks were gone. It would bounce all over the place. I do have to mess with the ride height and the, I believe it's the spring rate just a little bit. It's a little bit too, not stiff. The shocks are just on the middle adjustment, but the spring, it has like a little, the color is not for height, it's for spring rate, which I learned. So I have to mess with that. But overall, the install went very well. It's very easy to do. The rears were easy. The only thing that's different about the fronts is that we have to get them welded, as I mentioned before. But yeah, that's going to be a wrap for today's video. I appreciate you guys watching the end. That means the absolute world. Please like, comment, subscribe. Anything really helps in these early stages of trying to grow the channel. And I love doing this, and I'm going to keep doing it. And any support I get from you guys is just the best. Leave a comment, something I could have done better with the video, something I could have explained more, done better, edited differently, whatever. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out, and I'll see you in the next one.